Rev up your engines!
DJ Kid says you never talk about Mitsubishis. Okay, I'll talk about them now. When Mitsubishis first started selling cars in the United States, they were cheaply made piles of junk. They would burn oil. All my customers that had them, they'd get 50, 60,000 miles. They'd start smoking blue and white like mad, burning oil, blowing head gaskets. Now, they're better made than they used to be, but they're still using cheap parts. I still see them. They get 80, 90,000 miles. They start burning oil again because they use cheaper piston rings. A lot of them use those Jatco transmissions that Nissan makes that are terrible automatic transmissions. Now, I've had a few customers that got Mitsubishis and liked them. But they got used ones, and they got sporty ones that had standard transmissions in them. Then they bypassed all that automatic transmission crap that they had problems with and didn't have to think about that. I personally wouldn't buy one myself. Now, if you're really nuts about them, you want to buy a brand new one, and you're happy with a car that lasts maybe 100,000 miles and doesn't break down much, go right ahead. They cost a lot less than Toyotas. They look nice. They can be fun to drive. Just don't think you're going to buy a Mitsubishi and it's going to last like a Toyota or a Honda and go 200,000, 300,000, 400,000 miles and not have that many problems. But if you want a cheaper car and you like the way they look and you can afford a new one and you don't mind buying a new one every 100,000 miles, go right ahead. I've got customers that do that. CM says, what are the worst problems with Chrysler's? I don't own one. Well, I don't have time for that. That would probably take about 1.5 years to explain them all. Cheap design and production and many errors made over the years. The company's gone bankrupt. Mercedes bought them, then they lost a fortune. They sold them to a Canadian holding company. Then they were smart and they sold them to Fiat and made a bunch of money. Now Fiat stuck with them. They're just quality control is garbage. And then they keep coming up with different designs and a lot of the designs just don't pan out. That horrible 2.7 liter V6 engine they put out for years. It was just a pile of junk. They just don't do good engineering decisions and good production decisions. Now, I noticed lately they've been farming a lot of stuff out. Like their trucks, they had horrible transmissions, but then they started using American transmissions in them, and then they started using Jatco transmissions, and now I know, I see a lot of their trucks, they're using Aisin transmissions. Those are the Toyota transmissions. So, hey, at least they're getting better now, but they're not making that stuff. They're just buying. I guess they figured out they know they make crap, so they'll buy their transmissions from Toyota instead. Jonathan Paraguay says, Scotty, I'm a mobile mechanic looking for a bigger vehicle for my tools. Is a 2003 Nissan Xterra a reliable car? Well, they can be very reliable cars, but only for a certain period of time. I have customers with them that loved them, but then when they got 120, 130,000 miles, they started to fall apart, and they didn't like them anymore. If you're going to get one, I would not buy one that had more than 80 or 90,000 miles unless you got it dirt cheap. Because if you're a mobile mechanic, you're probably going to do a reasonable amount of driving. If you're going to do 15, 20,000 miles or more a year, and it's high mileage, it'll fall apart on you. That's just the way those things are. But if you can find a low mileage one on it, you can still get some decent mileage out of them. I've had customers that liked them that way, and I had customers that bought them used with like 70,000, reasonably cheap, and they loved it because they didn't pay that much, and then they still got 40, 50,000 miles out of the vehicle. Super Reno O says I get a noise in my driver axle when I decelerate or brake. My all-wheel drive SUV. What could the problem be? Okay, deceleration or brake is you're getting a strain on the drive axle both ways. Check the drive axle first. Check both ends. Check the outer CV joint and the inner CV joint. If the boots are ripped and grease is coming out, just replace the whole thing as an assembly. Because you can get aftermarket ones that work fine for 70, 80 bucks or so most of the time. They're not all that expensive. Since it's when you decelerate or when you brake, all kinds of things move when you brake. So jack it up in the air and pull on the wheels. And if you see you got a tie rod that's loose or a ball joint that's wearing out, that's obvious stuff. But most of the time it's in the drivetrain. And you want to pray that it's not inside the transmission, because that gets really expensive on all-wheel drive vehicles. If you can't pinpoint the sound, go to a mechanic like me, and we use our electronic devices, and you can stick them all over. And then you can pinpoint exactly where the noise is coming by that sensor, listening to it with headphones when you're driving a car around. Mechanics do that all the time. William Keeley says, why do you always have dark glasses on? Well, one, I got a bunch of stage lights pointed on my head. I'm old as can be, and I look better with the glasses on. And 3, I am blind as a bat. This is clear. Anything further is blurry as can be. I can't see. I've had bad eyesight my whole life, but as you get older, you have a tendency of knocking it out more. And the doc says, hey, if you wear shady glasses all the time, that'll keep your retina and stuff from being degraded as much. So that's what I do. You only get one set of eyes. You might as well try to make them last, you know? So if you never want to miss another one of my new car repair videos, remember to ring that bell.